Welcome to Module 2. This module offers an introduction to systems mapping, presenting practical tools designed to help visualize and analyze the system structures, the relationships between actors, and dynamic interactions found within the agri-food systems. We center our attention on two tools, the causal loop diagrams and the value network mapping, guiding participants in the use of these methods to uncover relationships, feedback mechanisms, and key drivers shaping system behavior in the agri-food sector. We build upon work of emphasis. We use existing training resources, and the module will blend these conceptual insights with hands-on demonstrations using Vensim. Learners will develop skills in interpreting feedback loops, recognizing lock-ins and leverage points, and understanding how static system maps can form the foundation for deeper exploration into advanced modeling techniques in Module 3. Let me present the teachers of this module. My name is Fleur Marchand. I'm Scientific Director at ILVO. This is the Institute for Research in Agriculture, Fisheries and Food Research in Flanders, and I'm also professor at the University of Antwerp. My work focuses on complex challenges in agriculture and food systems with a strong emphasis on understanding system dynamics and transitions. Other teachers with a lot of background in systems thinking are Divina Grazia Rodriguez and Giovanna Ottavaina Almo. Throughout this module, your learning will be guided by two central questions. How can I effectively grasp and illustrate the complex relationships and dynamics between actors within the agri-food system? And the second one, how can I thoughtfully reflect and steer purpose change in a way that is both targeted and reflexive? These questions will underpin your exploration of systems mapping and support your development of practical skills for analyzing and influencing agri-food system behavior. This module is organized in 3 main units to support your learning journey. The first unit will focus on causal loop diagrams. It will provide you with an introduction and a clear step-by-step guide to constructing and interpreting causal loop diagrams. This tool focuses on how elements in a system have an impact on each other, in particular how the elements reinforce or inhibit each other. This creates feedback loops in the system or places in the system that get stuck. The second unit will focus on value network mapping. It will give you an overview and a detailed walkthrough of the methodology for creating value network maps. This second tool focuses on how actors take on a role in the system and how the relationship between those actors generates a certain value. It's therefore more about transactions that can be very diverse in nature, transactions of money, but also of knowledge or power, for example. And after that, the tools will be showcased with the more complex system maps. You will be able to learn on the implementation of these tools through an in-depth explanation of more complex real-world case studies from the Emphasis project. To conclude, at the end of the module, you will have the chance to apply these tools yourself through practical exercises designed to reinforce your understanding and skills. Welcome to the first unit of Module 2. Here, in this unit, we will focus on the causal mapping tool. We will explore 3 central questions. Why do we need system mapping tools? How do causal maps enable this? And then, what is the step-by-step approach to implement causal mapping? So first, let me explain why system mapping tools are so important, especially as part of this online module. When faced with complex, stuck or so-called wicked problems within systems, our first challenge is to make these visible and understandable. System mapping allows us to reveal hidden patterns, which then makes it much clearer where and how we might intervene to create change. Building a causal map, we gain valuable insights. On one hand, it helps us to explain what is happening within the systems. On the other, it opens up new perspectives for action. This means we can identify possible interventions and see much more clearly how actions in one area of the systems might have effects elsewhere, sometimes far removed from where we started. In short, system mapping tools provide us with a roadmap for understanding and influencing complex systems more effectively. The second question we handle is how do causal maps enable this? Understanding feedback mechanisms is key to unlocking how systems truly work. These loops often explain why certain issues seem to persist or spiral out of control, defying simple solutions. When we try to make changes, it can feel like the system resists undoing our efforts. The challenge is that these feedback loops aren't always obvious. They can be subtle, delayed, or have causes that are far removed from the symptoms we see. While the problems are usually easy to spot, uncovering the real root causes requires careful investigation and a willingness to look beneath the surface. Second, causal maps are able to uncover circular patterns. When we explore feedback mechanisms, it's crucial to recognize the circular patterns at play. Problems with systems are rarely stem from a single cause or a single actor. Every element is connected and influenced by others, forming a complex web of interactions. This realization helps shift the focus from blame to shared responsibility. Everyone can contribute to positive change, regardless of their role. Tackling persistent issues with isolated actions rarely leads to meaningful progress, and spreading efforts too thin across many areas often dilutes impact. By understanding which factors strongly affect the rest of the system through their relationships, you can pinpoint where your efforts will make the biggest difference. This is where leverage comes in. Targeted interventions can deliver outsized results and drive real change. Thirdly, causal maps create a unique opportunity to bring together individuals from vastly different backgrounds. Although rooted in system dynamics, causal mapping remains underused as a practical tool for driving change. Some hesitance exists. Those with a humanities background often find causal maps too technical, while those with a science or engineering background may feel they lack straightforward linear steps. The maps also invite discussion about relationships between people and activities, which can feel unfamiliar. Yet, this is where causal maps are of great help. They serve as a bridge between diverse perspectives. By collaborating on causal maps, you learn to understand and speak each other's language, fostering connection and shared understanding. Let's turn to the main focus of this unit. How do you actually build a causal map, step by step? Think of causal mapping as sketching out a network of factors and influences, drawing circles or spheres and connecting them with arrows that show cause and effect, often forming loops. The aim is to capture enough detail to reveal feedback mechanisms while keeping the map clear and focused, so you highlight the crucial dynamics rather than get lost in complexity. The real skill lies in tailoring your map to the issue at hand. Clear, practical guidelines for making reliable causal maps can be hard to find, as system dynamics literature often feels too technical. For this course, we draw inspiration from Hans Vermaak's chapter in More Than the Sum of Its Parts. Even if you are new to causal mapping, following these steps will help you develop insightful maps. The process encourages you to check your logic as you go, making your map increasingly robust and valuable. Before you start, you need to define the issue and provide sufficient and diverse information. So you need to set the right scope. Be clear about the level you are addressing, avoid going too broad, like mapping the whole food system for a local soil issue, or too narrow, such as focusing only on farmer income when wider habits and norms play a role. Striking the right balance reveals the real patterns at play. You need also to bring in multiple perspectives. Seek out observations and interpretations from a variety of stakeholders. Talk to different people, use interviews, or run workshops. This broadens understanding and prevents the map from being shaped by just a handful of opinions. And at last, collect both hard and soft data. Hard data like structures, strategies, and documented procedures. It gives you the facts. But don't overlook soft data. Stories, conflicts, values, and personalities. These often reveal what truly drives the system. Take care to separate facts from mere opinions, especially with the soft information. So, what is the first step? Systems are shaped by the interplay of factors and their relationships. Begin by identifying the 10 to 20 most influential factors that you draw from both your hard and soft data. On this slide, you'll find a range of factors coming from a case about the uptake of community-supported agriculture in an Italian region. The best approach is to group related factors together by theme to make patterns and connections clearer. You can indicate these groups by color. Don't approach this purely analytically. Let your instincts guide you. Which factors feel pivotal to the issue, even if you're not yet certain how? But be cautious as well. Avoid picking only those factors that fit a pre-existing narrative or a desired solution. Focus on the current situation as it stands. Where needed, you need to reword your factors as variables rather than constants. These are more dynamic and revealing. Keep each factor specific and concrete, not overly broad or abstract. For instance, aging is clearer, much more actionable than demographics, which covers too many aspects. Aim to formulate your factors or variables in neutral or positive terms. For example, instead of poor management, opt for decisive management. This ensures clarity. If another factor improves poor management, is that truly better management? With your key factors at hand, begin by choosing 2 or 3 factors. Write them on post-its and explore how they influence one another. Link them together and start mapping out the connections. There is no clear starting point, so trust your instincts and dive in. Focus on drawing feedback loops. These are the circles that show how factors reinforce or balance each other. You don't need to use every factor straight away, nor reach agreement just yet if you're doing this exercise in a group. If one person gets stuck, invite others to join in and build on the work together. Sometimes you may sense a loop should close, but you can't quite make the connection. Don't hesitate to add in a new factor or variable as a missing link. Keep sketching, rearranging, moving your factors on post-its around. Gradually, the feedback loops and patterns will begin to emerge. This is a creative phase, so let ideas flow freely. Avoid criticism for now and encourage each other to build on one another's thinking. Critical analysis comes in a later step. But watch out! When searching for something solid to grasp, new system thinkers often fall into these common mapping traps. Maps that ultimately add little value. The first one is the spider web. Maps where everything is linked to everything else, creating a tangled mess of relationships that quickly becomes impossible to interpret. Another one is the chariot wheel. One central factor sits in the middle, with all arrows pointing in or out, as if everything revolves around this single element. And the third one is the flowchart. Arrows run neatly from one side to the other, reflecting a too linear way of thinking and missing the complexity of real systems. These approaches fall short because they lack feedback loops, the very circles that reveal how and why things truly happen in a system. And remember, it's those feedback loops that turn a map into a powerful tool for insight. The third step is a crucial moment. Each arrow on your map must clearly show a cause and effect relationship. For every arrow, ask yourself, does more of factor X lead to more or less of factor Y? If the answer isn't a definitive yes, then it isn't a real causal link, so remove the arrow. Watch out for pairs of factors with arrows going both ways. This can confuse the true direction of causality and leaves you unsure which factor is the cause and which is the effect. Usually, a feedback loop is hiding behind these double arrows. Make it explicit by adding a new factor for each of the direction. These new elements often link to other parts of the map, revealing deeper connections. You cannot place the same factor in multiple places on your map, because duplicates will hide important crosslinks. These improvements will keep your diagram clear and insightful. For extra clarity, add the polarity to each arrow. Use a plus for a reinforcing relationship and a minus for a weakening one. You can also show delayed effects by drawing interrupted arrows. In step 4, you bring your system story to life by refining and adjusting the map. Now that you've created a draft causal loop diagram, complete it with key feedback loops and major factor. It's time to walk through your map out loud. As you narrate the story of your system, pay attention to where the logic flows smoothly and where it doesn't. When something feels off or the diagram doesn't match your explanation, you found the spots that need tweaking. Use these moments to identify exactly where your narrative breaks down. Perhaps an arrow is pointing the wrong way, or maybe a crucial connection is missing. These insights show you where to adjust your diagram, making your story and your understanding clearer and more compelling for everyone. But how can you do this? If you find yourself needing lots of words to explain just a few arrows, it's a sign you should add more factors to make your story clearer and more visible. The same applies if you realize that your spoken explanation includes more important factors not yet shown on your diagram. Add them in. On the other hand, you can streamline parts of your map that don't branch out. If some intermediate factors don't influence anything else, they are not adding value to your narrative and can be removed. When your diagram doesn't fully capture the message you want to convey, there are usually two main issues. Unclear consequences. This happens when you have loose ends, factors with no outgoing arrows when you'd expect them to lead somewhere. Or unclear causes. This occurs when the presence of a factor cannot clearly be explained by incoming arrows. It's important to make visual improvements too. For a causal map to truly shine, it needs to evolve beyond a mess of arrows. Try these tips to make your map clear, compelling, and easy to follow. First, use circular shapes. Draw feedback loops as distinct circles or loops. Your brain will instantly recognize these as key mechanisms. Make space for each loop. Give each feedback loop its own prominent place on the map. And tidy up by removing irrelevant arrows where possible. Also, you need to separate storylines visually. Place different themes or loops in separate corners. Use contrasting colors or label your feedback loops by name. This makes each storyline stand out and helps viewers grasp the big picture at a glance. Let's look at an example. On the left-hand side, you can see the initial causal loop from the case on adoption of community-supported agriculture. On the right-hand side, you see the improved map. Let's focus on the original map on the left. In the center of the map, you can see the factor rate of CSA adoption. You can see that the factors on the map are organized in two clusters, one on the left and one on the right, without having much interconnection. And at the left bottom side of the map, the factor worker training levels is kind of an open end. On the map, the numbers 1 and 2 indicate the factor market demand and the factor machinery and infrastructure availability. Both have either a direct or indirect impact on the rate of CSA adoption. By placing these two factors elsewhere on the map becomes more open and easier to read. This also creates an opportunity to better link the factors in a system rather than in two clusters of factors that impact the rate of adoption. Next, look at the open end, indicated by number 3. In the right map, it becomes clear that by opening the map, it allowed us to link the open-end factor, worker training levels, with the factor policy support, because policy support can enhance worker training levels. We could even introduce a new factor, availability of training courses, which would also enhance the factor worker training levels. We now come to step 5, where we try to identify key leverage points and early indicators. It's crucial to pinpoint the areas where a small action can create big impact. These are your leverage points. As I mentioned before, identifying leverage points helps you to focus your efforts on interventions that are most likely to create a significant shift in the system. Also, it helps a lot to spot the measurement factors. These are the factors where you can easily measure change and track them immediately. By recognizing measurement factors, you can monitor progress swiftly and adjust your intervention based on real-time feedback. This ensures that your actions are both effective and evidence-based. Some tips for success. At first, it can feel a bit frustrating. Don't worry, perseverance will pay off. Stick with it and fresh insights will emerge. If you're feeling stuck, try zooming out to see if you're working at the right level. Taking a step back often clarifies things. And also work together as a group. Just like in brainstorm sessions, more perspectives can bring better ideas. Okay, once you've built your system map, put it to the test. There are many ways to validate your map. First, check for resonance. Does the map make sense to those directly involved? If it brings together diverse perspectives and helps participants to see the bigger picture, you're on the right track. A map that leads to new insights or aha moments shows it has real explanatory power. A second approach is to test the leverage points. Experiment with the action points your map suggests. If interventions based on the map work well in practice, especially in small-scale pilots, you gain confidence that your map is actually reflecting the system dynamics. But remember, successful results depend both on a solid map and on well-executed interventions. A third possibility is advanced validation through computer simulation or gaming. These offer deep testing, but we won't cover those here. Okay, we made it to the end. Just one message. If different teams map out the same challenge, don't be surprised if their maps look different. This is natural. These maps aren't the truth, but reflect how people interpret the situation. The real value lies in how clearly a map reveals the forces that drive change and the opportunities to take action. By actively using and refining your system map, you unlock new possibilities for effective change. I wish you lots of luck with applying everything that you have learned in this module.